Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Pokémon, Sonic, and Mega Man. What year is it? It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell. Mark, we've got a good show this week. We're going to be talking about some news, some Pokemon news, some retro gaming news, and then on Thursday, we've got our review discussion of Sonic Mania. But in the meantime, Mark, how are you?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Patrick?
I'm doing well. I mostly ignored the eclipse earlier today.
Oh, yeah. Everybody at work went outside. They were handing out eclipse glasses. It was actually pretty cool.
Yo, so you did go outside and check it out.
It only took like a moment, but super fun. And then I sent a text to my fiance being like, "Oh, did you check out the eclipse?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?"
What?
And I was like, "The eclipse that was happening today." And then I sent him a CNN article that summarized the entire event. He had zero idea.
That's incredible to me.
I know. I think so too.
Just because I've spent the last 2 or 3 weeks being like, I don't want to hear about eclipse anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems like you called up your oral surgeon, got put on hold, and there was news about the eclipse.
Right. And then you go in and see the oral surgeon, and he's like, "Do you have plans for the eclipse?" No.
Yeah, the world felt very eclipse-centric to me, but that's maybe because I'm living in an eclipse bubble.
We may be living in an eclipse bubble. It's impossible to tell. Weather otherwise has been fine.
So pleasant.
Yeah, very pleasant. Our guest weather today is from Auckland, New Zealand. Now, Mark and I were trying to figure this out. They're heading into the...
They must be heading into spring. I think they're in winter right now,
okay,
if we're in summer.
Mm-hmm.
So they must be heading into spring, followed, of course, by summer.
Right. Eventually.
Eventually. Yes.
And then fall, and then winter again.
Yes.
Okay.
So it goes for Auckland, New Zealand.
So it is currently 69 and mostly sunny. 59. Sorry. My mind was just I just autocorrected for that. That's embarrassing. I can't believe that happened. 59 and sunny. We do have a little bit of a debug from...
Small debug
from last week's episode. It turns out that Tails cannot fly in Sonic 2. Our guest, Ryan Countshouse, was convinced that Tails could always fly.
Turns out that's not true. Neither of us were versed in Sonic enough to correct him.
At the time, I felt like I wanted to correct him, but I also didn't... I don't know. I did feel like a couple times maybe Ryan was going to punch me. So I just... Yeah, like he was coming off hot.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't try to correct him. I'm a coward. You're a coward. We're cowards.
But of course, not only are we cowards, we are fans, not experts. We should stress that, of course.
Yes.
Because we haven't stressed that enough recently.
I suppose you're right. Let's back away from any perception of expertise. Mark, what have you been playing this week?
Sonic Mania, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We will be talking about it a lot more on Thursday, but suffice it to say, I'm really enjoying it.
Good. I am also playing Sonic Mania and really enjoying it, but we will have a full conversation in 2 days. I've also been playing some Chicken Wiggle on the 3DS, which is fun if kind of slight. It's kind of a small game.
So we talked about it last week a little bit, but remind everyone, including myself, what the mechanics of Chicken Wiggle are.
So Chicken Wiggle is a 2D side-scrolling kind of puzzle platformer wherein you really only have you're a chicken and there's a worm that lives on your back, and you have basically 3 abilities. You can jump, you can shoot the worm forward and he acts like a whip or like a Yoshi tongue or something, and the bird can peck so he can attack enemies right in front of him. And basically the whole game is just trying to traverse from one side of the map to the other, and it's got a very like I'm gonna say procedurally generated, but it's not. Like, but it feels like that. Everything is created with the same tool set. All of the levels are created with the same tool set that they give to the players. So like there is a level editor and a level sharer, and actually a pretty robust system that you can make and share your own levels. But all of the like main campaign levels are set up the exact same way, like with the exact same tools, and it even shows like the creator of all of those levels being like the developer of the game, in the field that would normally be reserved for like Patrick made this level. So it feels a lot like playing like an Adventures of Lolo, or a like Krusty's Funhouse, or one of those games where you're like, okay, I see how this works, and it's just sort of iterations on the same thing over and over again.
Do you think it's priced appropriately?
I think it's priced a little high. I believe it's $14.99. And that seems like a little much for like you can get a ton of just like time value out of this thing. You could play it forever. But it seems like it would be more attractive at like a $7.99 price point. Especially because I got through like half of the main campaign last night, and I'm sure it gets harder from there. And like I said, there's infinite replayability if people are making levels. But yeah, it seems like it's not priced exactly right.
I also played some more Splatoon 2 in between bouts of frustration not being able to beat some Sonic Mania bosses. Well, one specifically, but we'll get into that on Thursday.
We will get into it on Thursday.
And I checked out the Splatbrella.
Oh, yes.
Is that what it was called? The new item that was released, I guess, 2 weekends ago into the game. And it's pretty cool. I'm not great with it, so I didn't use it as like my main or anything. But it is kind of like a shotgun blast.
Okay, so you have to like be close up for it to be effective? Okay.
But very powerful. And then if you hold ZR, it like deploys the umbrella part as a shield. And then if you continue to hold ZR, it like the umbrella part of it, the protective part of it will like shoot forward.
Oh, interesting.
And so you could kind of like shoot it and then run behind it as it's going forward.
So is it like inking space ahead of you?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So
that's interesting that there's like another button input on it. It's a little bit like how the dualies have that like extra command of like you can dodge left and right with them.
Yeah. I didn't see very many people playing with it, so I don't know if it's just not very popular. I feel like there are so many weapons in this game, but for the most part, everybody just plays with like 6 of them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's how, there are so many weapons, you're never going to be able to be like well versed in all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like I see a lot of sloshers, people using that bucket. Or at least that's what I find myself being murdered by.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of sloshers. The other thing I've been doing is I haven't even really been doing turf wars because I'm this weekend Salmon Run was open for a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so I put basically all my time into Salmon Run. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun on higher level. Like the higher you get your rank, basically, the more challenging it becomes, and the more like bonus levels and variations on the game open up. And so I was playing ones that I had never seen before. Like there's like the Glowflies one, and then one where there's a bunch of like sewer caps, and a Goldie will pop. You have to find which one has a Goldie in it.
Oh,
and then attack the Goldie. And then ones where like cannons show up, and you can get into the cannons and blow things away. And one where there's a mothership that it like is deploying these like baskets, basically. You shoot them down and the eggs show up in. But then occasionally a mothership will come down and land on the like egg cage or whatever and suck some of your eggs up, so you can lose it. It's so much fun. And so when I was first playing Splatoon 2 and doing Salmon Run, I was like, it's fun, but it feels limited.
Yeah.
And now that I'm at like higher difficulties, it's so much more of it is opening up that I didn't even know existed. And I'm having a blast with Salmon Run.
Oh, that's great. I got to get back into that. I haven't picked up Salmon Run since like the first or second weekend that it came out.
I also think that you and I, like 2 people could set up a room and just do Salmon Run with 2 people, and it kind of scales accordingly.
Let's do that.
And then I also picked up the Rayman Legends demo that you mentioned that you had played a little bit last week.
Yeah, what'd you think?
So last week I was feeling like super interested in it, downloaded the demo, and I think presentation-wise, it's pretty amazing. Like it looks beautiful, the music is really great, but the platforming itself did nothing for me.
Oh yeah, you didn't like it?
Yeah. It's not bad. It just reminded me of a lot of like kind of the good feel games that they just aren't.
Okay.
It's not really my style of platforming, but I can absolutely see the appeal.
All right, fair enough. So that is what we've been playing this last week. Let's get a look at what we might be playing next week. It's time for new releases.
So August 22nd, which is Tuesday today, if you're listening to this when it comes out.
Which of course you are.
Which of course you are. Minecraft Story Mode, The Complete Adventure, is released for Switch. And coming up on Thursday is Pixel. Is that right? Is that how you say this?
Yeah, so it's spelled Pickzle.
Yeah, so Pixel Lines DX.
So this is it's a puzzle game where you have like a certain number of it's like there's like a grid and there are numbers on this grid, and so if the number is like 6, you have like 6 blocks to get to the next number 6, and then it like fills in the space that you like traced your finger around, and so there's like a finite number of paths for all of these things. It looks like, I don't know, like a kind of iPad.
Yeah, it
puzzle
also
game,
and it looks like it has kind of that same sort of like Puyo Puyo Tetris presentation, like that anime.
Yeah,
wrapper on it.
Definitely some anime on this. Yes.
Also on Thursday is Forma.8. I think it's, or maybe just say it Forma 8,
or maybe Forma.8.
Or maybe Forma.8. Maybe
Formulate.
I don't know why you'd put the la in there.
I don't know. You wouldn't, but
maybe you do.
But this is like a side-scrolling, like kind of shoot 'em up adventure looking.
I think
game.
It's a Metroidvania-esque platformer, I believe, where you play as like a little
ball.
And you
Mark and I are both like trying to make little balls with our hands to
Yeah.
communicate to each other. It's a ball.
And you are on, I think, like a desolate planet. And as you explore, you learn a little bit more about the planet and things like that.
It's got that indie art style of like high contrast, bright color, and like just like black characters.
Yeah, lots of shadow, heavy shadow. And then on the 3DS eShop is Alchemic Dungeons.
Great.
And then on Friday is a new Nintendo 2DS bundle. I think we had mentioned this a couple of weeks back, but it's the old school 2DS.
Not the new.
No, not the clamshell
2DS
one.
XL.
No, the like slate looking one. And it comes bundled with new Super Mario Brothers 2. I think it's for like $80. So if you're on a budget looking to pick up a 3DS or 2DS system, it's still hard to beat the original 2DS.
But if you can find the version of that bundle that has Mario Kart in it, that's a better deal because it's a better game.
Undoubtedly.
Yes. Some kind of weird stuff going on this week with the virtual console on the 3DS in Japan. They're getting a ton of new releases on August 23rd, Wednesday, including some that it's a lot of Super Nintendo games, and there's no word of any of them coming out on the American store, but like there's some really cool ones in here, including Final Fantasies 4, 5, and 6. And the Legend of Ogre Battle, which is an ogre battle game, and Castlevania Dracula X, both Breath of Fire games. We already have the Breath of Fire games, but everything else on here is like Japan's getting something cool, and we're not. So I want to bring it up.
I know. I don't know if it's because they're capitalizing on like the release of the new 2DS. And, it's just like more injecting more fresh blood into the the 3DS ecosystem in Japan.
So a lot of this is are Square games, Square Enix games. All the Final Fantasy games, the Ogre Battle game, Romancing Saga. I guess the Breath of Fire games were also published by Square, developed by Capcom, but published by Square.
Only here.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, and I guess there's also the Demon's Crest is a Capcom game. So it's all third party stuff. And Konami for the Castlevania, and the Goemon games that are in there too. It's none of it first party stuff. So I don't know if Nintendo in Japan like unlocked some kind of deal with their Japanese developer partners or whatever, but they've got like a dozen cool classic Super Nintendo games showing up on their eShop.
Yeah, when's the last time we had any show up on the Virtual Console here?
Jeez,
feels like it's been a while.
It has been a while. I think it was when the Breath of Fire games came out, which we would have recorded something about. So I will leave it to intrepid listeners to go back and tell me when we talked about it.
Virtual Console is always kind of a bummer because it's just never lived up to the what it could be.
Yeah, it's potential.
Yeah, it's potential. That's right.
Not a tough word, but we got there. All right, so that's what we might be playing next week, except any of those Japanese games, which we cannot play because we're not Japanese. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, let's talk about hobbits.
Let's talk about hobbits.
I like hobbits.
I like hobbits too.
I think they're cool. I think they're chill in a world that is not chill at all.
Yeah, a very not chill world.
Middle Earth,
not chill.
Not chill. It's got zero chill. Hobbits, though, they're made of chill.
So, let's talk Lord of the Rings for a second.
Okay.
If you were, you had the option to be Frodo, Sam, Merry, or Pippin, which would you be?
Okay, so because it's impossible for me to take my 2017 sensibilities out of it, I can choose neither the servant nor master in the servant-master relationship. It's too weird for me. Couldn't pick Frodo, couldn't pick Sam. Their relationship is too strange for me. So it comes down to Merry or Pippin. I like Merry, but I think a little bit of that is my I like Dominic Monaghan. And so I'm bringing baggage from the Lord of the Rings movies to my selection.
And Lost, let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I love Charlie Pace. I love that character. But yeah, I like both Merry and Pippin, that they're kind of like screw off characters that like find real bravery. And Merry finds his on the battlefield, which I think is cool. Pippin ends up being like more of a like advisor, or like crazy king whisperer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Merry is my answer. Who's your go-to?
I will answer that, but before I do, let me throw a sub question at you. Is that who you think you are most like, or who you would want to be?
I was actually answering neither question, just like who is my favorite.
Oh,
of the
okay,
Hobbits.
yeah. I think that's what I originally posed.
Okay, whew.
Yeah.
Who would I be? Sam, probably.
Me too, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Sam's my favorite. Sam's great.
What does it mean for this show that we're both Sam?
I think that's nice. I mean, I think it's very telling that neither of us want to be Frodo, because Frodo is no fun at all.
No, Frodo, he spends the entirety of the Lord of the Rings resisting the call to adventure, right?
Yeah.
Like he is dragged on it. Yeah, Frodo's not my favorite.
No.
But you know what? I take Bilbo over all of them.
Really?
Yeah, for me, Bilbo,
but like young, like Hobbit Bilbo.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Hobbit era Bilbo for sure. Which is part of why I was bummed out by the Hobbit movies,
which were terrible,
which are no good. Yeah, but you know what? I sort of like old man Bilbo. Like he's got a little bit of like weird PTSD, and he's like still sort of possessed by the ring. I can get into it.
Yeah, I guess he's just no fun in the movies.
Yeah, yeah. I wish there were. I wish we had a better look at other hobbits because
Mhm.
I feel like all of the other hobbits in Hobbiton are just like we get a lot of them at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, right? But it's all through old crazy Bilbo's eyes, where like he just doesn't like any of them anymore. Um, and like the Sackville Baggins are coming around and like knocking on the door and like trying to steal stuff from him.
Yeah, everybody like all the rest of them seem kind of um they all want something.
They
That's
do
how
all
they're
want something.
portrayed, you know.
So we were saying that hobbits are chill. It,
But they mostly are chill, right? Cuz like the problems
mhm.
or actually oh no, are we going to turn on hobbits
I don't know.
cuz
Let's go
maybe
down this hole.
maybe the hobbits are living in their own like weird bubble, so the things that they care like they're like super privileged, right? They don't have to worry about all the war that's going on in the rest of
That's true. So do you think
Middle Earth, and so they're like, "Oh, I get to
Hmm,
complain about,
not getting the silver
yeah,
from when Bilbo
yeah,
disappears
because I don't have to worry about my entire race being
obliterated?
obliterated."
So what do you think then? Do you think it is a cheat then to not end the Lord of the Rings movies the way the books are ended and like actually bring the terror to the Shire itself? Because in the movies, the hobbits are spared. Hobbiton is left to be this like serene place forever.
Right? They like come back, and it's
It's happy
nothing's
and
changed.
exactly. But that's not the case in the novels.
Right?
They come back and like stuff has gone down, and it is a worse place. So, oh well,
Well,
I guess
we'll never know.
we'll never know if it's a narrative cheat. And we were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. Mark, let's get into the news.
A new trailer was released by Nintendo of Japan, showing off some new features in the SNES Classic Edition or the it's like like Nintendo Classic Edition Famicom Super Famicom Mini or something.
There are a lot of words in the names of these things.
But it showed off two like major new features. The first one is kind of a throwback to the Super Game Boy era,
Mm.
where it has like a different borders that you can put around
Oh, interesting.
because the um resolution or
Aspect
aspect
ratio.
ratio of Super Nintendo games are obviously not 16:9, and so there's a lot of blank space if you're showing it in the correct
Yeah,
aspect ratio.
sure. You're right. Yeah, exactly. If you're not stretching it on a widescreen TV, there's going to be some blank space.
Yeah, and so now you can choose you can choose from a number of borders that'll kind of like go around it.
Can we keep it black?
I'm sure you can.
Oh, love keeping it black.
I never really liked it that much in the Super Game Boy either. I kind of find it distracting.
Yeah, well, and like Mega Man's 9 and 10 both like kept sort of
Yeah.
8-bit aspect ratio, but filled up the sides of the screen with just like extra stuff, and I'm always like, I don't get that out of here. If it's just black, I'll forget that part of the TV is
Yeah,
there.
you don't even really notice.
Yeah.
And then the other new feature that they showed off is kind of like a replay option. So it looks like let's say the example they show is Super Mario World and you're fighting a boss and you die. Instead of having to reload your save fully and like start all over, you can use this replay feature using the L and R buttons to like scrub backward and forward in time.
Mhm.
And then when you reach the point you want to replay, you hit Y and then it just picks you up from there.
So that must be accessed through like some kind of pause menu or something, right?
It looked like in the video that you still hit the reset button,
Oh, I
like
got
you
it,
would
got it,
if
got it.
you were going to start a new save file,
Mhm.
and then you access it from there.
How do we feel about this? Good?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, when we were playing some of the virtual console games for our dearly departed Classic Edition series,
Yes.
like when we were playing Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Conquest, we were save scrubbing left and right.
Oh yeah, that's right. It would have been nice to just back up a step. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a feature that would have been nice on the original NES Classic, and just like looking at the lineup of games on the Super NES Classic, I see fewer like really tough games where I'm gonna need that or want it. I guess Donkey Kong Country is on there, so that's one. But like, there's a bunch of RPGs on here.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Does it have utility for something like F-Zero?
oh, maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe if like you're going around and like you really blow one turn and you're like, ugh, and just like scrub back to right before the turn and just get it right.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be a game changer for like time trials.
Yeah, and we will talk more about this on Thursday, but I would like to have one of those.
Oh my gosh,
in
please.
Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited for the SNES Classic in general.
Yeah. Hey, pre-orders are supposed to go up late this month.
So anytime now, TikTok.
Yeah, we're there, TikTok.
So hopefully soon. In some other retro gaming news, data miner Griga Master? Sure, why not? Has discovered some references to the Nintendo 3DS in the code for Mega Man Legacy Collection 2. Of course, Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 is already out for PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and the original Mega Man Legacy Collection was on the 3DS, but there's been no word of the 3DS or Switch version for the Legacy Collection 2.
Right. The 3DS version did come later than the rest of them. So holding out hope there, but more than that, just holding out hope for a Switch version.
Yeah, I feel like all of these are coming too soon for a Switch version unless the Switch version comes much later. I don't think they had time.
Yes.
They haven't had time at this point to do it. I don't know.
It also seems like what they should do is here is Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 on the Switch.
Absolutely. Do like a Resident Evil Revelations.
Yeah.
Right? Like put them both on there.
Hey, Capcom, keep testing the market.
Throw the Disney Afternoon Collection on there as well.
It's all we want.
We bought more like 500,000 copies of Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, between the two of us. We bought 500,000 copies of Ultra Street Fighter 2.
We deserve the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 on the Switch. Also, this on September 22nd, there's going to be virtual console releases of Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver on the Nintendo 3DS. And Europe and Japan are getting these really cool like retro boxes that basically have like the original art from the Game Boy Color releases, Game Boy Advance releases, just Game Boy releases.
They're probably Game Boy Color, right? Because they came after Yellow, which was also Game Boy Color. Let's say Game Boy Color.
Okay, Game Boy.
And again, we're not experts.
Yeah, we're fans. I'll hedge my bets and say Game Boy Advance.
Okay,
but
I do not commit to that.
Gold and silver, and so it's just these boxes that inside will just be in Europe. Inside is just a code to download it, and in Japan the boxes are filled with like magnets in the shape of Game Boy cartridges. It must be Game Boy Color.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm it's Game Boy Color.
So Game Boy Color cartridges and some magnets or some stickers and a poster. Of course, in America, we're getting Bumpkiss.
Right. I believe you mean to say in America.
No.
No?
Like we're doing West Side Story, some weird version of West Side Story.
Oh, I was thinking an American Tale that we were like Russian mice telling stories of the promised land.
In America, the streets are paved with Pokemon Gold cartridges.
That's great. The streets are paved with Pokemon Gold. That's cool. I want those.
Yeah, I mean, just the boxes are fun.
Yeah.
So kind of a bummer that we are not getting that here. Of course, Nintendo of America doesn't like fun that much, apparently.
That's their motto, right?
I believe so. Speaking of Pokemon, some new details about this year's Pokemon Ultra Sun and Pokemon Ultra Moon.
Still coming this year.
That's right, on November 17th. There's a new story promised that is going to dive into secrets about Necrozma. Sure. I don't know. How are you supposed to pronounce any of these Pokemon?
As best you can.
And the Alola region in general that were undisclosed in the previous game. Some new Z moves, new buildings and landscapes in Alola, and new features such as Alola Photo Club, where you take pictures of you and your Pokemon in various poses and costumes, and you can get like different lenses and cameras and stuff like that.
Now, is this just a subtle acknowledgement that everyone wants a new Pokemon Snap without actually giving it to them?
Oh, that would be so like Game Freak.
Yes, it would.
Here's something like Pokemon Snap, but also not like it.
It is not Pokemon Snap.
So, yeah, both these games come out November 17th. We both really like Pokemon Sun and Moon.
Yeah, I never finished it. After we had like our period of a couple weeks where we were playing it and enjoying it and discussed it on the show. But then it just sort of fell off.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it, but I'm also not like I enjoyed it a lot, but I'm not a Pokemon like fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't really feel the need to catch them all. There's not real joy in like battling for me, so there wasn't like a lot of end game stuff that I could keep doing. So, going back to the Alola region does not particularly appeal to me.
Sure, we experienced it. I wonder also just like how many, and I'm sure there are people for whom the answer is without limit, but like how many Pokemon games can you play in a year, right? Like, or even over, like how frequently do you think you could dive into a new Pokemon game?
Well, it's weird because my gut says not that often, like once every couple of years. But if this were coming out on the Switch, I think I would buy it.
Well, see, that's what I was driving at, is that like I'm interested in the Pokemon that comes out on Switch, and I kind of don't want to burn whatever Pokemon enthusiasm I have on a sort of representation of a game I've already played.
Do you think if the rumored but seemingly not a thing Pokemon Stars was actually coming out this fall and it was coming out for the Switch, that you would pick it up?
Yes.
Do you think you would play it?
I don't. That's a great question. I would pick it up, though.
I would definitely buy it as well.
I'm just dumb enough to pick it up. Are you in the same boat where you're like, I don't know if I would play it?
I don't know if I would play it either, because I feel like I would like start it,
mm-hmm.
and then I would get into it a little ways, because I really enjoyed Pokemon Moon. I really liked my time in it. I completed the game, like the story of it, but it is like I'm not thrilled at the idea of like replaying it.
Yeah, I mean, you had your experience of it, and like to start another experience of it, like that's a whole other thing, right?
Yeah. Totally. Also, there's going to be a demo for Pokken Tournament DX coming to Switch later this year in September. Oh, it all comes out on September 22nd. The Pokemon Gold and Silver. It's a Pokemon festival. The demo for Pokken Tournament DX doesn't have a release date, but I'm interested in the demo because I think that'll be all I need of Pokken Tournament.
Just enough to like wet your beak.
Yeah, just like experience it, see what the deal is. But I don't love fighting games in general, and I don't have a huge affinity for a lot of these Pokemon, so it's clearly not the game for me.
But we can play a little bit of it for free. There's no word on how the demo is limited, either by time or character selection or what. But, that'll be a good way to try it out.
Yeah, and so we can look forward to that can't be too long from now.
Right, because the game itself is like a month away.
Yeah. And then, okay, so this is a little weird.
I love this story.
Do you remember Nintendo Selects? Specifically, do you remember Nintendo Selects for the Wii U?
Yeah, I have a couple of those on my shelf. That's why I have Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Do you have Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed?
I do. I had a copy of this game on Vita, but have never played the Wii U version.
So weirdly, there was like a stealth release of a Nintendo Selects version of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. It means a copy is going to cost you $20, and it's a rare third-party game that gets a Nintendo Select release, and it's happening in August of 2017
on the Wii U.
I mean, as far as we know, actually, I feel like it's very possible this could have happened months ago, and just nobody
We're just
noticed.
noticing now.
Yeah,
people are doing a lot of Google searches for Sonic Mania, and Sonic just came up in their searches. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's a decent kart racer. I'm not gonna encourage people to go back to their Wii U and play a kart racer that isn't Mario Kart, but I don't know if you need more kart racing.
I also think this actually reminded me earlier this week. My mom texted me and she asked, "Hey, would a Wii U disc work in our old Wii?" And I think that's a perfect example of the uh like bad nature of the Wii U naming
Yeah,
convention and
yeah,
like the poor job that Nintendo did in differentiating those systems or explaining what the Wii U's was or why it was desirable in any way.
yeah. Especially when like the people who are going to be having those questions are going to be Mark's mom. Like that's the kind of person that's going to be like, oh, it says Wii on it. Sure, there's another letter, but like I should be able to play it on my Wii.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great.
But we're past it. We're past it. We're living in the Switch, the sunshine of the Switch now. It's a bright sunny day.
I wanted to bring up the character list for Sonic All Stars Racing, whatever the name of this game is, because I remember there being some weird characters in here.
There has to be a Biggs the cat.
Let's see. I'm just gonna read down the whole list.
Great.
Sonic the Hedgehog,
Mhm.
Miles, Tails, Prowler, Knuckles, I from Samba de
Amigo?
Beat, Amy Rose, BD Joe, Mimi, Ulula, Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph is in this game.
The Disney character?
I think it's. Do you know another character named Wreck-It
No,
Ralph?
good point.
Danica Patrick is in this game. We don't need to go down the rest of the list. I just wanted to get to Danica Patrick. I knew there was a real racer, it's a weird game.
Let's see. I skipped something that I really want to touch on. If you want a new 2D Metroid game in the future that's not Metroid Samus Returns, hey, guess what? You should really purchase Metroid Samus Returns.
Oh yeah? Why?
In an interview with Game Informer, producer Yoshio Sakamoto said, quote, through the development of Metroid Samus Returns, I was able to really grasp the possibility and fun of a 2D Metroid, like when I finished the first game. If there is another opportunity to make another Metroid, that is something that I would love to do. Of course, that really depends on how much people really want to buy a 2D Metroid.
So, this is the continuing line of if you want more products like this, you will buy this product.
It's a test game.
I mean, is it a test game, or are people just being honest? Like, oh yeah, if it turns out you guys like this stuff, we'll make more.
Well, I mean, isn't every game a test game?
Yeah. Yes, that's all I'm saying. And also, like, yeah, just buy Samus Returns. Like, it's a new Metroid.
Yeah, and it's from all the previews, it seems to have been very positively received. So the reviews haven't come out yet. There's still a couple of weeks before the game is released, but it looks really solid.
Yeah, I'm very excited to play this game.
Last week we talked about Telltale's Batman: The Enemy Within getting a GameFly listing for Switch. We still have no official confirmation of its existence.
Noah Fish.
But this week, both Amazon and GameStop listed the game as well. So it seems inevitable that we are getting a Batman: The Enemy Within Switch port.
So I think this is interesting because, we mentioned earlier in the show that the Minecraft story mode, which is another Telltale game, is coming to the Switch this week. So it's not like there are no Telltale games on the Switch starting tomorrow. But it doesn't make sense for these things not to be on Switch, right?
Right.
So, yeah, bring it on. Bring on Batman.
Switch was the best-selling console in the United States for the month of July, outselling both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. 3 of the top best-selling games for July 2017 were Nintendo Switch games, with Splatoon coming in at number 1, Splatoon 2 coming in at number 1, Breath of the Wild coming in at number 5, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe coming in at number 7.
Splatoon at number 1.
And the way NPD does...
Number 1, Mark!
The way NPD does these lists now is by revenue, not by units sold. So
Okay.
it's possible the Crash Bandicoot collection was number 2.
Oh, and it's a lower price point.
That it sold more copies, but by revenue, Splatoon 2 was the best-selling game.
And both of those outsold Grand Theft Auto 5, which was number 3 on the list.
Right.
Grand Theft Auto 5 being like a mainstay for the last, I don't know, 4 years.
This is also the first month since I think the launch month of the Switch that it outsold the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
For best-selling hardware. So I think what that means is just what we've been talking about anecdotally on this show. Also, like last week, GameStop, Best Buy, Walmart, Amazon, like basically Toys R Us, like basically everywhere had Switch restocks. So it just seems like the system is becoming more readily available.
Right. Nintendo is actually able to produce them for people to buy them.
Speaking of which, a Splatoon 2 Switch bundle was announced as a Walmart exclusive in North America. The bundle includes those neon pink and neon green Joy-Cons that I have been craving, that my
Coveting,
body
I would say.
coveting, lusting after, and then a download code for Splatoon 2 and a special carrying case. The package retails for $379.99, which means they're charging you $20 for the case. The bundle will be available starting September 8th. They have been taking pre-orders for it.
I think the pre-orders are no longer available. I tried,
they sold out.
I tried following links to it, looking for that date. But yeah, I think you'll have to either get them in stores or pick them up, secondhand.
The Joy-Cons are really, I think the colors are really fun. I think they're really cool.
We will have to get to a point where you can just order any color Joy-Con, right? Like there has to get to a point where like you can just have someone dip color your Joy-Cons.
I think that's already possible. Like people like customize your Joy-Con for you.
Yeah.
Like did you see that like one that looked like a Pokeball?
Yeah,
people designed it to be Pokeball. Like yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the Pokeball one. I've seen did you see the GameCube one where the right Joy-Con, the thumbstick is yellow?
That's fun.
Thumbstick, yeah. I do feel like there are endless possibilities for these things.
I would love just like ones that special edition ones, like the NES controller looking ones and Super NES controller looking
and
ones.
Super Famicom.
They could sell me so many Joy-Cons.
Right. To date, I have not purchased additional Joy-Cons.
Me either.
But we're reaching critical mass. Like, we're getting.
There will be a tipping point.
There will.
Malcolm Gladwell will pop out and be like, tipping point. That's how that works.
That's his only job now, I believe.
Otherwise, unemployable. Finally, a few weeks ago, Nintendo used the recently implemented Great and O options found at the end of news stories on the Switch. Have you seen these?
No.
Okay.
I don't really read the news stories on Switch.
So at the end of every news story, there's like a little heart that says "great" next to it, and a little heart that says a little broken heart that says "oh." And
is it like "oh ...
Probably.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly, but basically it's like.
Otherwise, it's just like a tacit acknowledgement, like "oh."
But yeah, it's just a choice between like, do you like this? Do you not like this? Do you want more of this in your news feed? Sort of thing. As a way to kind of like implement this, a few weeks ago, Nintendo of America asked people whether hot dogs were sandwiches.
Okay.
And the results are finally in. 54% of responses indicated hot dogs are indeed sandwiches, which is, of course, tragically incorrect.
Now, do you think people were actually saying, yes, the hot dog is a sandwich, or do you think they were saying, like, oh, I like this, I want to see more?
It was made
like
very
this?
explicit what the people were voting for. Don't try to give people an out. Don't try to give 50% of the population an out.
I mean, it's the same population that voted for Trump, right?
I mean,
that's the mess we're in.
That's a great point. So
these Trump people think hot dogs are sandwiches.
You don't think hot dogs are sandwiches, do you?
No. I mean, also, I've got no stake in this. I can't eat a hot dog.
I mean,
I don't eat meat.
You can eat a hot dog.
No, but I can't in the same way that I can't, like, do something else I can't do because I don't do it.
Great. That's great. That's a great example.
That was
airtight logic.
That was the best metaphor I could come up with.
Yeah, how could it not be?
On the spot. No, I don't think a hot dog is a sandwich, but I also don't care. Like, if someone wants to say, like, oh, that hot dog's a sandwich, I'd be like, all right.
I would die on that hill.
You would die on that hill?
Yeah.
That's one you want to defend?
Mm-hmm.
Weird that like with the Splatfest being ketchup versus mayo, that like
I think we neglected to mention that in our Splatoon 2 news that there's a new Splatfest.
Yeah, forget the point I was making.
September 1st and September 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Team Flight versus Team Invisibility. Like which superpower
would you have
Mhm.
is the question. Now, I feel like the obvious answer or the popular answer is flight, right? I think people like flight.
I think the word you're looking for is correct answer.
Yeah, maybe. But the popular answer is bound to be flight. But Pearl is representing flight and Marina is representing invisibility.
Oh.
So now we're splitting the audience a little bit here.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I'm not convinced. I may be on Team Invisibility for this one.
I respect you, so I respect that decision.
Mm-hmm. But you don't think it's right.
Yeah. But that's fine. It's just another one of those things that you can't do because you don't do it.
That's right. I can't do it. I've never been invisible. And I've only flown a couple times. It makes me wish that there could be more like parts to Splatfest, like more than 2 teams. Because I know a flight is an incomplete list of powers, but like seeing invisibility, I start thinking about the Fantastic Four. And I want there to be like, do you want to be a rock golem or a stretchy guy?
That would be cool. That'd be awesome if there were like 4.
Yeah, or even 3. Like that would all be super cool.
I also wish they would just, I mean, I think flight and invisibility is a step up from mayo and ketchup, but
it still seems like there's one right answer.
Yeah,
one
yeah.
popular answer and
Yeah,
one not as
exactly.
popular answer. All right, Mark, we will fight that out later, I'm sure. But let's get out of the news. We're done with the news. In fact, that will do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember to join us on Thursday as we talk about all things Sonic Mania. We're going to have a whole review discussion. And in the meantime, you can rate and review us on iTunes. If you like the episode, please share on Facebook or Twitter. It doesn't matter who you think you're hitting with that. It helps us out a lot. On Twitter, we are at NinCart Society. Check out the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. And if you have any feedback about anything that we said today or any places that we were wrong about what system Pokemon Gold and Silver are on, you can send an email to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on retconpunch.com. We recently wrote about the first issue of Dark Knight's Metal. I thought it was okay, and Mark hated it. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can find more of 8-Bit Betty's music on 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?